The computer that I am running Debian Linux on has an AMD Ryzen 7 processor with Radeon graphics. And it is my speculation and contention that the Debian team, those great software developers that put it together, set it up in such a way that when AMD hardware is detected, that the right firmware is selected out of the box, and when you combine that with the updates from the main Debian repository, you actually get an out-of-the-box visual representation and presentation that is a little more fluid and much better polished than you would normally see on some other Linux distributions. That's my opinion, and that's my experience. And so I right-clicked on the desktop and I chose to change the background so I could cycle through different backgrounds. And what I see is color treatment and color distribution that, in my opinion, is quite refined and a little bit more refined than I normally see in a few of the other Linux distributions that I've tried. Notice, by the way, I've set up my workspaces. I got 9 workspaces. I just work like that. 9 workspaces work very well for me. And you'll see my bar down at the bottom, I have all of my icons laid out. And so for some, and you got dark mode up there that you could set on the whole layout, but I like light mode, and I like this particular background as I've cycled through all of the different stock backgrounds that came with this edition of Debian. And so what I'm really looking at is software updates today, and why I generally advise not having automatic software updates set up. So you have this software center, right, that is pre-installed with most Linux distributions. And so I don't really care which Linux distribution we're talking about, whether it is Fedora, Ubuntu, or in this case Debian, right? And Debian being the rock foundation for the majority of Linux distributions out there. This applies to all of them, and that is the GNOME Software Center, right, which I unpinned from my dash down at the bottom and put it back into the main system menu, right? That Software Center and the associated infrastructure for GNOME, it's set up for automatic updates out of the box. So one of the first things that I do after I've installed Debian or whatever Linux distribution, if I'm talking about a desktop, not a server. Servers, it's the opposite of what I'm saying right now. But for desktops, I turn off automatic updates. Perhaps it's just my long experience, but I've seen more issues with automatic updates than I have seen where you address the updates when you're ready for them, right? And so I toggle off that switch that enables automatic updates, right? And in the Linux distributions, you have a nice handy shortcut through the Software Center. So the Software Center is not a total loss. It's actually a quick visual way to see what type of software is out there that you may be interested in installing. Also, because we're talking about hardware, in this case AMD Ryzen and AMD graphics, but you could have also talked about Intel and NVIDIA. But with AMD and with Ryzen and with Radeon and other graphics offerings from AMD, we get great support for that in the Linux world. And so I've checked off some of the other repositories that would help in that endeavor, right? And so that's basically what the plan is here. And for me, it works extremely well. But I turn off automatic software updates because I want to control the Wi-Fi data usage. I may be on a hotspot, right? And I don't want my hotspot getting torn up, the data usage being torn up through these automatic updates for the operating system in the background, right? Now, for individual desktop programs, I don't mind automatic updates. But for the operating system itself, I would like to keep a regulation on that allows me to know when did the system go south due to an update, and do I actually agree with the updates that are being proposed, right? And what can I do to refine the updates if I decide I want to go a little more piecemeal or in a more acute way on applying updates? This is a script that I've put together. And if you want to look at that script in detail, just pause the video, look over it. But it's a script that I put together based off of the last 72 hours or 120 hours of using Debian again. And I decided that I'm going to go ahead and set up a setup script, so when I install Debian in the future, in future versions of Debian, I'll have a script that will install my most commonly used software, and I'm going to expand that script to also handle a couple of configuration changes that I would like to do. It's a great idea to have a script like this. This one's super simple, right? And so again, you can pause the video, but I probably will put a copy of the script in the description, so you can just copy and paste if you choose. You can run it as a bash shell script if you like, or you can copy snippets from the text file and paste it into the terminal window here, and that allow you to have more piecemeal control over how you're installing different groups of software. And it also allowed me in this case to experiment. For example, in some other Linux distributions, you need to either install gedit or you need to install the different plugins one at a time or in certain groupings. And I found that in Debian, all I have to do is just install gedit plugins and it automatically rolls in some of the most commonly used plugins that I like, right? And so that simplified things there. So that's going to be the power of using scripts in this particular case. And so one of the nice plugins that I like with gedit is the sort plugin, right? And so when you choose the sort plugin, it allows you to just resort the entire text file, just like you would in Notepad++ on Windows, right? And so there's all kinds of text editors out there for the Linux environments where you can do this sort of thing, right? It's absolutely great. I just like the way that it is presented in gedit and the way that you can get it pretty much out of the box when you already have GNOME and you have gedit already installed. And so with the automatic updates, I get to not only direct the way those updates are installed, right, but I can postpone updates that I don't have time for. So let's say that I need to do something, I can postpone those updates. So one of the things that I like about the GNOME desktop is the screenshot tool, right? And so in setting up this video, I want to show an example of setting up a simple thumbnail, right? And this thumbnail in this case is going to incorporate this background. And what I was doing is I was going through and I was trying to find the screenshot tool, right? The screenshot icon. I could not find it. So I went in the search bar at the top, right? And I started searching for screenshot, right? And so what it will do is it's going to show me a list of all the different tools that will help me take a screenshot. Now they've integrated screenshot capability into GNOME, into the GNOME 42, 43, 44, and later, I believe, right? And so you can have that there, but I actually like the other widget that you can use for the screenshot. And so I decided that, you know, yeah, I'd go ahead and use this just to see, and it automatically saves into the screenshots folder in your pictures folder, right? So you can go there and you can find that and that sort of thing. But I didn't like the way that it actually worked out of the box. And so I decided I was going to go and install the screenshots tool. Well, I can do that in the terminal window, in the command line, right? Or I can use the software center. So while I did turn off automatic updates in the software center, that doesn't mean I can't use the software center, right? And so when you type in software that you are interested in, this list may not represent the software being on your computer. it will take you directly to the Software Center where you can click a button and install it. You type in the password to your sudoers user of choice, and then you click Authenticate, and if it's authorized, then it goes in and installs the software. So that didn't take very long. So now I have that software installed. I'm going to close out of the Software Center, and then I'm going to go actually get that widget, which there it is right there at the bottom. I'm going to pin that to the dash because I use that quite a bit for various things that I do. But in this case, I'm going to set up a quick thumbnail for this video, right, which is going to consist of the file folder, right, with the script that I use for setting up a brand new Debian system in this case, right, after I've installed Debian and I have things generally laid out the way I want, and then I want to install these various pieces of software, namely desktop software, but also other types. This script would assist me in doing that, right? And so I want to capture a screenshot of just the file folder along with the word Debian down at the bottom from the background and just a little slice of that background. So I'm going to set this up for a delay timer, right? So about 14 seconds or so. And then that's going to give me enough time to take the screenshot so that, you know, I can position things the way I want and have the screenshot, you know, in progress, getting ready to, you know, capture whatever I want and orient things the way I want. So that was my first take. Not quite what I was looking for, so I'm going to do another take, right? But as you can see, one advantage I have here is that I can change the file name, right? So as the screenshot is taken, I can not only change the file name, but I can determine where that screenshot is going to go. So that's the type of customization that I like, right? Customizability that we're looking for, where, yeah, you can do screenshot integrated into GNOME itself, right? And that is handy and useful in and of itself if it serves your purposes. But for people like me who likes a little bit more control over how they use certain tools, then, you know, using a widget like this, using an applet like this is going to be much more useful. So I think we got things just the way we want, and we got a 10-second delay, and then that's the screenshot that I would like to go with. And now I can set the file name on it, save that to whatever folder I want. In this case, I'm just going to save it to pictures proper, right? But where it says folder down below the file name, I could click on that and choose any other folder that I want to save that in, right? So I click save and it's done. So that's pretty much it for this process. And you know, speaking of open source software, right? I've been very pleased the last several years to have used OBS to record the screen. And if you look at the top right corner of my screen, you'll see a little yellow icon. That's indicating that screen capturing is going on, right? And so when we're talking about security and we're talking about, you know, is someone actually recording my screen? There are no guarantees, but at least we have, you know, some indicators like that lets us know, is the microphone being used? Is the screen being captured, right? And so Linux has come a long way, and I know Linux is, for those who are pedantic out there, that's a very overused term, right, when we're being specific about an operating system versus a kernel. But in general, Linux has come a long way. Debian has come an extremely long way, and as you can see, it is very useful as a daily driver. And so hopefully this video came across very clear because I set my OBS settings to the highest level possible. So it basically creates 7 gigabyte you know, files per minute, right? So I set it to extremely high settings, and so I hope you found this well. Thank you for tuning in.